Rico, come in. We're gonna take a piece of this ARC tower to Narville.
Negative. We got a situation here.
Fuck.
Garza, you take the intel to Narville. We need Sev here.
I'll meet you at the crash site with some backup.
What's going on, guys? This is the Brigade once again. We're back at it with another volume of the Preparing for the Shadowfall series. Alright, so we had a couple weeks break, a couple weeks hiatus. We all went on a family vacation. I've been enjoying my summer so far. I did a few Dark Souls PvP showcases. And I even uploaded a few Killzone 3 multiplayer videos. So I figured after all this time is about that actually now would be the perfect opportunity for me to continue on with my Killzone 2 walkthrough. Now, in the event that you guys are not familiar with the channel, perhaps you guys may have missed some of their earlier videos, I basically explained that I am anxiously awaiting for the release of not only PS4 but also Killzone Shadowfall. So in order to basically lay down a welcome mat for that particular game, I figured I would go ahead and do a full walkthrough of Killzone 2 and upload a few showcases of Killzone 3 multiplayer. So, hopefully, to the extent that you guys may not necessarily be familiar with this particular franchise, perhaps if you guys are considering getting the PS4, you guys will kind of have a little background of where previous titles within the series came from. Alright, so let's just go ahead and talk a little bit about Killzone 2. Basically, what is this game all about? What are the wars about? Why does it appear that the ISA are the good guys and the Helghast are the bad guys? Well, by reading a little bit on the history of Killzone, perhaps it'll kind of give you a better understanding. And moreover, perhaps you will rethink your opinions with regard to, ISA being so-called good and the Helghast being so-called bad. So, I figured I'll just go ahead, especially in this video, I figured I'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about the backstory. Now, the backstory in its entirety is pretty vast. And, seeing that I'm not particularly one of those lore type of dudes, I'll basically give you guys a brief background that leads up to Killzone 2, which is, what you guys are seeing right now. Now, a lot of the information that I'll leave out is basically some of the dialogue that you guys are going to notice to the extent that you pay attention to the walkthrough. So this is why I will not only complete the stages, but I will also include the cutscenes wherein you can kind of, follow along with, on your own with the dialogue. Alright, so what is Killzone all about? Basically, you have the planet Earth, and since everyone is so greedy, and they need all their things, all their little toys, and since certain businesses think they have a monopoly on the world, eventually resources ran out. And you know how it is, once resources get scarce, here comes more and more competition. But it's not the type of competition that whoever's the best, you just get it. No, this is a competition with weapons, with guns. As a matter of fact, there's a competition with nuclear weapons. So basically, competing for these resources left the planet Earth almost destroyed, right? Not completely destroyed, because there's still people there. But, it's so torn up and so barren, for the most part, that the Earthlings really need somewhere else to inhabit. So what they decided to do is go ahead and take all their, intelligence, and, so-called intelligence, because in other words, if they were so intelligent, they probably wouldn't have basically wreaked havoc on their own homeland. But, that's another story. So anyway, what they did was they took all their energies, their technology, and I think they took like 6 vessels out into the solar system in an effort to colonize a few planets. Because I guess they figured to themselves, you know what, with the way that we left the Earth, I mean, we kind of need somewhere else to occupy. If we're going to survive this thing, because the survival of our race depends upon it. Race meaning the human race. So they basically took 6 vessels, along with scientists and other men, soldiers and research developers and whatnot, and they ran into a system called, I think it's like Alpha Centauri. And within the Alpha Centauri system, there were 2 planets, one called Vecta, the other called Helgan. And actually, let me take that back. They weren't even called Helgan and Vecta until it was purchased. So before we get there, so they noticed the system, but before they can really get into the system, all 6 vessels were destroyed due to some type of solar storm. Right? So with the Earth being barren, basically depleted of all resources, and broke with no money, they figured that they were basically hold off an auction to whomever could amass the most funds to enable them to go ahead and do a little research and exploration of these 2 planets. So the Helgan Corporation amassed enough funds, which basically made them the highest bidder. And with them being the highest bidder, they were able to purchase the rights to these 2 planets. One being Vecta, the other being Helgan. Now, they named these 2 planets after, I think Vecta is named after the president, and Helgan is named after the corporation, or something like that. So, after winning the auction, the people on Earth said, okay, now, first off, before we even get into it, now check this out. How arrogant can you get? In other words, in order for you to auction off something, you have to have rights to it. You have to have ownership to it. That's almost like these corporations think, well, we'll sell you water. Think about it. This planet is made up of like 75 to 80% water. But then you have these businesses who think they have the right to sell something that's a part of the planet. So, the idea is almost the same with this game, In other words, how do you have the right to auction off anything to me when the planet is owned by no one? It just exists, right? A system isn't owned. It just exists. It's in outer space. But, granted, it's a story, so, they can just kind of wing the story however they want to. At the end of the day, they auctioned off this system that included these 2 planets to the highest bidder, for which the Helgan Corporation just so happened to win that auction. So, with them doing that, they agreed to give them 10% of their profits to the people on Earth, which is basically made up of the UCN, which is basically, the UCN is just kind of like the equivalent of the United Nations, and the ISA. So, you had one planet that was pretty much like Earth. The land was great. You can grow things on it. It had vast oceans. It was breathable. You could do a lot of things with it. And I think that was the planet that they called Vecta, which they named after the president of the Helgan Corporation. Then you have Helgan, which basically served as an outpost for Vecta. Now, that particular planet was barren. Now, even though they were able to do things with it, it basically caused a mutation that over time, because keep in mind, if you guys are really paying attention to this history, this whole story takes place over like decades. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to say over a couple 100 years, right? When you go back from the original Killzone all the way up to Killzone 3, and even leading up to Killzone Shadowfall. So, like I was saying, man, where was I? Okay, so anyway, I don't really remember where I was, so I'll just go ahead and talk about it. So anyway, so they auction off these 2 lands. Helgan was basically barren, but it served as an outpost. and it caused mutations of those humanoids, which if you even look at the Hellgas, even in the PvE, you guys will notice that they have those breathing apparatuses. Well, that happened over a series of decades. But, not only did the mutation cause them to need breathing apparatuses, but it also made them stronger and faster. So this is why, if you ever pay close attention to some of the rhetoric that you will hear in Killzone 2 and Killzone 3, you'll basically hear its leaders referencing, how much suffering they had to go through, how much the planet caused them to change and make them better. And therefore, that's more of a reason for them to take pride in defending their planet. So, with the Hellgast having full rights by way of the auction over these two planets, they began to impose a tax. Which is basically, listen, if you guys want to go ahead and travel through our system, we'll just go ahead and charge you a small fee. We'll charge you a tax. Which, there's nothing wrong with that because they have ownership to it. And as time went on, the ISA and the UCN, which, like I said before, is kind of like the real life equivalent of the United Nations, they said, hold on a minute now, these people are actually doing good, and we're not really doing so good, here on Earth. So, not only did the Hellgan say, okay, yeah, you guys can go ahead and travel through our system. I mean, we'll charge you a reasonable fee, but you can go ahead and come through. They even first off, they even helped to fund the ISA itself, and they allowed them to play some of their bases. But as time went on, and the ISA and the UCN figured they wanted to get their hands more in the pocket of the Hellgast, they eventually, only time would allow for the Hellgan to say, you know what, we need to do something about these people because they're plotting against us right up under our noses. And if we just allow them to sit here and make, while we're making all these profits, while we're flourishing, while the corporation is building a strong army and getting everything else together, they're not going to like that, and they're going to try to get a larger piece of the pie. So what we're going to do is we're going to seize their bases to prevent them from basically trying to plan against us right up under our noses. So they seized the base, and all of this brings about the birth of the first extrasolar war, right? And this particular war basically is the sequence that you will see in Killzone 1, right? That's basically where they're saying, well, the Hellgang basically got the crap beat out of them. And the reason why they got the crap beat out of them, I mean, think of it. Now, you just basically colonize two planets. You're investing all of your profits, all of your monies into research and development and exploration, because these are new planets. So you need to figure out, and not even that, you also need to deal with the effect, the mutating effect that Hellgan is having on the humans. Because as time went on, they're not even humans anymore, right? And they just kind of mutate until these, I don't want to say beasts, right? Because they can still think, but I'll just say half human, half whatever they are. So as time went on, they basically get the crap beat out of them, because while the Hellgan Corporation is investing all their time and energies into research and development and expanding their discoveries, the ISA is basically just sitting back. They still have their navy, they still have their military force, they still have their strength, they have everything. So think about it, trying to deal with a mutation that's taking a toll on your own people, trying to invest in research and development for the planet that you've been awarded, and all these other things, you really have an immature army, right? So with them having such a young army, not necessarily as developed and experienced as the UCN and the ISA, they took their first loss. Now, after taking this loss, the ISA, for the most part, tried to take over Vector. And this is where As a matter of fact, I think they took over both planets, and actually I don't have the history in front of me, but I do know they took one for sure. So this basically what brings you to Killzone 2. A new leader is born. A person who is necessary to bring about the rebirth of the Helghan people. Right? Because after suffering so much loss and having these ridiculous imperialist ISA just taking over, like they were the ones who went through the suffering, like they were the ones who built the planet, well, these two planets from the ground up, like they were the ones who did anything other than try to leech off someone else's efforts. Good old Scholar Fasari said, no, we're not having that. Now, the reason why some people will say that the Helghast are quote unquote bad guys is because you guys will see later on that they basically, just set off an explosion that not only took out a whole bunch of ISA, but also took out some of their own people. So this is why I'll say the Helghast are not necessarily good in terms of, good or bad, but they're definitely not the bad guys. They have the right to both of these planets. It is the ISA with their greedy hands, right, and think that they basically have divine right to something that they never worked for. They never suffered for. They never broke blood, sweat, and tears for. They just want to lay claim to it because they think they can. And, at the time they had that military might. So as time went on, that first loss basically was the end of the first extrasolar war. And with the birth of Scholar Vasari, you have Killzone 2. So basically, that's all the backstory for everything before Killzone 2, which is basically Killzone Liberation and the original Killzone, which I believe is, I'm not really sure if it's a PS2 release or if it's an original PlayStation release. And actually, based upon reading some of the comments, I've had some guys suggest, like, hey dude, you probably need to find that thing on eBay or on have.com or Amazon or something, because actually the first Killzone was pretty good. Now, of course, this is a relative opinion, because with it being either an original PlayStation release or a PlayStation 2 release, keep in mind that the graphics are not going to be the same. But if you're a loyalist like myself and you just love the franchise, the investment is worth it, right? Because think about it. It's not like it's a brand new game and you have to pay $59. I'm pretty sure you can find the game on the internet for probably about $10 at most, right? So, just taking that in consideration, I might just go ahead and get the first Killzone just to check things out, because this is definitely a great franchise. Alright, so that's basically it. With regard to Scholar Vasari, I don't really have to say too much about Scholar Vasari because, as I said earlier, I will definitely include a lot of the cutscenes and all of the dialogue so you guys can kind of follow yourself. Also, if you guys are just listening to or reading the little captions, you guys can just kind of follow what they're doing. Because basically, what we're doing is pushing into the planet, and we're going after Scholar Vasari. And actually, I say we loosely, because I in no way support the ISA. Those guys are imperialist, and they don't deserve to exist, in my personal opinion. And I really hope that with the release of Killzone Shadowfall, they will allow a story mode of both factions. Because for most of us who, have a basic understanding of the backstory and who understand, self-determination, sovereignty, and everything else, what that really means, I'm pretty sure you guys will take sides with the Helghast just as myself and a lot of other people have. Alright, so enough about that. So in the following sequences, you guys will kind of see how the story goes, and you'll see a lot of these things for yourself. So that's basically it. Now, I will make sure to keep a link, well actually not keep a link, but to place a link in the description box of the Killzone history. Because there was a lot of things I left out. Like I said before, I just basically gave you guys a quick rundown of what the story is all about. I'm not like a Harry Potter type of, lore junkie type of dude, you understand? So, for a lot of you guys that are like really all into lore, no matter what it is, may it be Harry Potter, Star Wars, Dark Souls, or even Killzone, I'll let you guys go ahead and check it out yourself. It's actually some real interesting stuff, and that's coming from a person who, I mean, don't even really care that much about lore. Alright, so we're basically trying to take over Vasari Square. And if you guys will notice, these guys are definitely putting up a good fight. Now, one misleading thing, about walkthroughs is that, you know, when you're kind of, well, number one, YouTube has limitations. And not only does YouTube have limitations, but, I mean, I don't think too many people want to just sit here and watch a 2-hour video of failure after failure after failure. So these walkthroughs can be misleading in the sense that you will basically see, you know, me just kind of going through it. But what you will not see is me dying over and over and over and over again. For which on this particular stage and on a few of the previous stages, I mean, I died countless times. Now, granted, I am on veteran level, for which there are 4, right? I think you have like basic or amateur or something like that. Then you have trooper, which, I mean, if I had to classify it, it would be classified as, you know, so-called normal. Then you have the veteran, which is where I am, and then you have the elite. Now, what's the difference between veteran and elite? Well, you guys will see that there is a reticle, but there's no aim assist. Right? So for all you guys that are kind of used to aim assist, you won't have it on the veteran level. But not only is there no aim assist, but there's not even an aiming reticle on the elite stage. Right? So you guys see that reticle that I can just basically see where my rounds are going. You're not going to have that on the elite stage. Not only that, there's going to be more opposition, more AI, with more HP, more firepower, and more everything. So the elite stage, I mean, is for some of you die-hard first-person shooter fans with a lot of experience. Because, I mean, I'm getting my behind handed to me just on veteran, and I played this game before. But, I mean, just being all fair with it, I'm not really a first-person shooter guy. But then again, I have played this. I mean, I kind of been into this franchise ever since the release of Killzone 2. So, I mean, it's great. I mean, there's really nothing more that I can say about it. I'm pretty sure you guys may know that from listening to, you know, not only previous volumes in the preparing for the Shadowfall uploads, but also in some of my Dark Souls videos, right? Because I know I've mentioned on a number of occasions that, I mean, I'm not really a gamer, and within the last few years, I think I've purchased no more than about 4 games. And when I say last few years, I'm not talking 1 or 2. I'm talking probably about 3 or 4 years, right? Because, I mean, you know, I purchased Killzone 1, 2, and 3. Obviously, Dark Souls and Demon Souls. I purchased Borderlands, but, I mean, I never really caught on to that. I know a lot of people are all into Borderlands, you know. Shout out to good old Mind's Eye. He's all into that, but I probably played that thing for about 2 hours and I never picked it back up. Also with Hitman, you know, Hitman was cool, but, you know, after playing a few stages, I'm just like, okay, well, it is what it is. But the Killzone franchise and the Souls series are definitely 2 franchises that I will always support. Alright, so enough about that. So as you guys can see for yourself, they're calling in for the backup. They have their vehicle coming in and dropping in a reinforcement, so I have to do whatever I can do to try to minimize that, because these guys are coming. And the AI is pretty good on this game. I'm telling you, this is no breezy walkthrough. And like I said before, despite my own opinion, one thing that a lot of people had complaints about with regard to this game is the fact that the controls felt heavy. Me, myself, I never had a problem with the weighty controls because, I don't know if I've mentioned it in the past, but I spent 6 years in the military and I wasn't a paper pusher, right? As a matter of fact, I was in combat arms. So with me having first-hand experience and knowing how heavy the equipment is, you know, when you have a sack on your back, a utility belt, boots, your uniform, canteens, grenades, magazines, your weapon, perhaps even a secondary weapon. I mean, you're not going to just be whisking from left to right like this is Call of Duty or something like that. And I think with a lot of these guys being so used to some of these other first-person shooters, you know, and how easy it may be to, you know, just quickly turn around to your left or your right, they may see it as more of a challenge and therefore a handicap when they play Killzone 2. But like I said before, from personal experience, I don't have a problem with the weightiness because a weighty feel based upon how heavy your load is realistic. Now granted, you can adjust the X and Y axis, but at the same time it still will feel a little more sluggish. Now I don't want to give you guys the impression that you'll be moving at a snail's pace, because you can see it for yourself, but I'm just saying, case in point, the second first person shooter that I purchased was Battlefield Bad Company 2. And when you compare the two games, you can definitely feel the difference. But like I said before, I actually prefer this version because I know what it's like to carry a heavy machine gun, a pack on your back, several magazines, a drum of rounds if you're using a fully automatic machine gun, and everything else you have to carry. So I'm pretty much good with that. I know it's kind of in line with reality. So I'm good with it. Alright, so looks like we have the Big Daddies coming in. As a matter of fact, they're not even called Big Daddies. Big Daddies is from another video game. I forget the name, but whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about. So we have the Big Daddies coming in. And I think once I get rid of the Big Daddies, that will be it for trying to take over Visari Square. And in the following videos, you guys will obviously see me proceed on more until their planet. So like I said before, it's an interesting story. And I will ensure to leave a link to the backstory in the description box for all you lore junkies. You guys can go ahead and check it out for yourself. And hopefully you guys will enjoy it as much as I have. Alright, so getting rid of the Big Daddies. Really nothing to it for the most part. If you guys are paying close attention to what I'm doing, basically you just have to give them a series of headshots, and then you have to get rid of that tank on their back. And once you do that, you're pretty much good to go. Now, on the elite stage, those Big Daddies are pretty difficult, right? Because it's obviously going to take more rounds for you to stun them. They're going to have more ammo. They're going to be shooting at a higher rate, and they have a lot higher HP. So, you're definitely going to be in trouble. And like I said before, this particular walkthrough doesn't really do anything any justice. Because, I'm just showing you, the best case scenario. But I died on this stage so many times that it was ridiculous. Alright, so we're back at it trying to get rid of the baddies. Well, not actual baddies, but you guys know what I mean. With regard to how the game is being presented. They're presented as if the Hellghast are the baddies. But they're not. Alright, so we got a Big Daddy on the left side and another on the right side. So, which one? And actually, let me try to get a few headshots. And basically, I should probably get out of dodge because I'm getting ready to die. So I'm just going to head and draw back a little bit, let my vitality replenish. Alright, go to first person mode. Try to get him through the sight, try to get some headshots, but I can't get him. Right, because his weapon is a little more effective than mine, especially at that range that I'm trying to hit him. So let's see, should I switch? No, I think I'll just go ahead and stick with the machine gun. And actually he took out one of my crew members, so I'm gonna go ahead and revive him. Try to get some headshots, and I still can't get him. But it's all good because it looks like I'm just gonna have to go ahead and get a little closer. But at the same time, keep in mind my positioning, right? Because you just can't just run up to him straight up because he'll definitely take you out if given the opportunity. Come on, dude. Let's get some headshots. Uh-oh. Gotta change that drum. Alright, so he's on my back. Let me try to get some headshots. Come on, dude. And I got him. Alright, try to tighten up these tanks on his back. Run up here again. Try to tighten up on my ammo drum. And we're good to go. And actually, this particular machine gun is good, but there's another fully automatic weapon that I also prefer. Alright, so let me try to get these tanks on his back. Let's see, are the tanks smoking yet? Hopefully they are. Okay, so it is slightly. Get a few headshots, get a few rounds in his back, and hopefully I can get him to... Not yet. Well, anyway, you guys can go ahead and watch the final few scenes of this particular volume. I hope you guys enjoyed this particular showcase of the series. So, just look forward to some more of the preparing for the Shadowfall presentations, because there will be a lot more to follow. Alright guys, until next time, Martyrs Brigade is out.
Your pitiful lives are over.
We did it! Hurrah for the 25th!
What do you know? We just took Basari Square.
Take a bow, Alpha. What would they do without us? Come on! War's not over! Keep it moving! Good work taking out that arc tower. I sent that piece of shrapnel you found to Evelyn back. Maybe she could tell us how the damn things work. Right now, we need to get that convoy to the bridge in the Settlement District. Secure the route to the palace. You two, watch the flank. You got point with me.
Looks like your roundos have paid off, huh, Garza?
No one called a timeout. Move! Shit. Right. Rico, heads up. Reddick's troops are in the area. Get out of here! Take cover!